For NewYorkUpstate.com, I am Matt Parrino, and the Buffalo Bills, as of this recording, are sitting at 2-7. So I figured it might be time to start looking ahead to the 2019 offseason. And what better way to start than the NFL Draft? The Bills currently have 10 picks, so I'm bringing in Joe Marino from the NFL Draft Network. Joe, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, Matt, thanks for having me on, and welcome to the draft discussion. We've been doing it all year, so more and more fan bases I'm starting to get reached out to talk draft, and I guess it's time for the Bills to join the party.
Definitely, and it's been quite the struggle for the Buffalo Bills offense in 2019, and most fans are hoping that the Bills take a long look at every position on this offensive side of the football this offseason, but at the top of this draft here, where the Bills are likely to be picking, there might be a couple game-changing defensive players. First of all, who are those players, and would you fault the Bills, even with so many holes on the offensive side, if that's the way that they chose to go?
Yeah, it's going to be the challenge for the Bills, and a lot of teams that want to go offense early in this draft is that the value is just not going to be there, and so you have to look at those defensive players. And when I think about those premier talents at the top of the draft, if the Bills were in position to land either Nick Bosa, the edge rusher from Ohio State, Ed Oliver, the defensive tackle from Houston, or Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle from Alabama, I don't think those three players are anybody that Buffalo should be willing to trade away from or not select or reach for an offensive player in my position. Those are the type of game changers on defense that, Buffalo's a good defensive unit, but adding players like that is going to help take things to the next level. And really, I think the strength of the defense is going to push some of those offensive players down a bit. And I think you can get similar value on an offensive player at wide receiver or the offensive line on day two. But I just don't think anybody can be affording to trade away from those blue chip type players. Deontay Thompson, he's a safety from Alabama. He probably deserves to be mentioned in that discussion, but it's hard to find a place for, with Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer at safety for a player like that. So those are those defensive linemen I think that Buffalo would just have to take if they were in position to do so at the top.
So you bring up the offensive side of the ball, and obviously for the Bills at wide receiver, that's the kind of the position that I think fans are zeroing in on, trying to talk about, where can this, position be upgraded. And at the draft, I think I've read in various locations that this is a deep draft. A lot of at that position at wide receiver. So if you could, who are a couple good fits at wide receiver for the Bills, and where could they potentially maybe get those players in this draft?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of wide receivers, a lot of different size and shapes and different guys that do different things, but, Buffalo just needs weapons, right? And so I think that they can take weapons and fit this into this offense and give them something because there's not a whole lot to work with. The guy that I really like in this class is DK Metcalf. He's a wide receiver from Ole Miss. He's the guy with those blue chip traits. He's big, fast, ridiculous length, ability to go up and get the football. He's very crisp with his releases, but the problem is he's got this neck injury, and so we're not exactly sure what his availability is going to be for the draft. He's a redshirt sophomore. If he comes out and he's healthy, he's the guy. He's the blue chip talent, the guy that you're willing to take in the top 10. If he's not available, which is a strong possibility, you kind of have to look at those next guys, and the one that really pops is Kelvin Harmon from NC State. He's a guy that's really exploding here. He had a great sophomore season. He's having an even better junior season, and he's a power forward type guy. He's a guy that reminds me a ton of Alshon Jeffrey. Very physical, excellent play strength. He has a really outstanding ability to position his frame at the catch point, but for a guy that's big and muscular and physical, he's pretty smooth, in my opinion, and he's really shown an expanded route running skill set this year to win in the underneath areas and separate. So I like him a ton. I think start looking at Riley Ridley from Georgia. He's actually Calvin Ridley's brother. Think of a bigger, stronger, less elusive version of Calvin Ridley. I think he's a guy that warrants top 40 consideration. DeMarcus Lodge from Ole Miss. He's a guy that can take the top off the defense. Really explosive route runner. Has some inconsistencies finishing, but a guy that I think is going to be a very productive receiver. And then you have those big guys like these giant receivers like N'Keal Harry from Arizona State, Colin Johnson from Texas. You have J.J. Arcega-Whiteside from Stanford. And so what we need to do is really learn more about their athletic ability, because if you think back this time last year, we were talking about guys like Simi Cobbs and Auden Tate and Marcel Aitman and Alan Lazard as these great prospects that mossed guys in college. But for these bigger receivers, you really have to get a feel for that athletic ability because you don't want to have the next Kelvin Benjamin, a guy that just really struggles to separate and is inconsistent at the catch point. So a lot of different size, shapes, different receivers, and I think that if Buffalo does their homework, they can get some guys that can really round out this receiving core around Josh Allen for the future.
That's great. And finally, before I let you get out of here, you're talking about, at the top of this draft with potentially defense and then maybe looking at wide receiver in the middle of the draft, but offensive line is a big need here. If you could, in terms of fit for the Bills and where they'll be drafting, especially with those 2 picks in the 4th and 5th rounds, what are 3 names on offensive linemen that you think would fit nicely for the Bills?
Well, if Buffalo's going offensive line in the top 10, Jonah Williams from Alabama is the guy that you really want to target. He's the only top 10 worthy offensive lineman, in my opinion, right now. He's very physical. He frames rushers extremely well. Just does a really good job working to his set points and being square, controlling his body. I mean, he's going to be a really outstanding left tackle for a long, long time. Yanni Kajus is a guy from West Virginia. If you want a guy that can move their feet like a typewriter, man, this is the dude. He's super nimble, and he's got a lot of length, and he does a really good job of keeping pass rushers at the edge of his reach and making them really widen their rush angles. A guy that I can win in space and really love him. If you're going to task your offensive lineman with zone blocking and pulling and those types of things, he can do a lot. And then David Edwards from Wisconsin. He's a guy that's a former tight end. He's played right tackle for a few years now at Wisconsin, and he's just getting better and better every time I watch him play. He's really physical. So if you want a guy that is a really outstanding pass blocker but can move those bodies off the line of scrimmage and create space in the ground game, that's the guy. So when I think offensive tackle, and I'm thinking guys that can start and really start helping this Buffalo offense and fill in, maybe replace Jordan Mills, or you move the deck around a little bit to try to get those best 5 out there. Those are the 3 guys that excite me the most in terms of the offensive tackle position.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joe. We'll have you on again, obviously, before the draft, hopefully multiple times. And, guys, for all of your draft coverage, head over to the Draft Network. Check out Joe's work and all the guys over there. And, obviously, for all your Buffalo Bills content, keep it locked on the NewYorkUpstate.com.